Governance, risk and compliance is a collection of business processes that is quite extensive. The solution developed by Axnosis covers many of these processes. Today in this walkthrough we're going to take a look at just one of those, being enterprise risk management. To access the GRC solution, from the front panel look for the Governance, Risk and Compliance option and click on the link. This will take you through to your workspace. The workspaces are configurable depending on your company and your own personal requirements. A workspace consists of a number of shortcuts to frequently used transactions, as well as some key performance indicators and charts. The charts at the top here give you some examples as to what might be possible. Let's look at the Enterprise Risk Summary chart. In this case, we can see that most of the risks are assessed as being low risk, but there is quite a high level of extreme risks, and this might need further attention. Another example is to look at the Open Actions chart. This aggregates all of the open actions across all of the system and shows the total in each category. This helps you identify which areas of the business might be developing a bit of a backlog and which might need further attention. Note that the actions that are coming through here are not only from the Governance, Risk and Compliance solution, but really represent an aggregation across all of the solutions inside Dynamics 365. And this would also include the Occupational Health and Safety solution, also by Axnosis. So what I want to do, as I said, is show you the enterprise risk management features within the solution, and we'll go through the modules menu. Now again, under the modules, we have Governance, Risk and Compliance as one of the menu options there, which takes you into a whole host of submenus, including the setups. Let's take a look at the risk registers, which fall underneath risk here. And notice that there's financial, enterprise and operational risks. Fundamentally, the risks in the system all follow the same structure, but are just classified differently. So if we click, for example, on the enterprise risks, we'll get a list of all the risks, but the class has been filtered automatically for us to show enterprise risks only. If you take a look to the right-hand side, you'll see that the status of some of these risks is in created or approved state. You change the status of one of these from the top here by clicking on this drop-down. Note that the workflow is created, then submitted for approval. The approver can then either ask for a re-examination, or he or she could approve it or reject it. Once it moves beyond the submitted phase, the risk register is locked to make sure that no further changes can take place. In the sample data on the screen, you can see we have a couple of risk registers. The one I'd like to take a quick look at is the first one, which is in the IT department, and it looks like an IT security risk assessment. We get to your normal screens where you have a lines and a header view. On the header, we get some high-level information about this particular risk assessment. The information that we can see on this particular IT security risk assessment includes its unique number, a description, the site where it's relevant, the department, and the class of risk. Remember, we're only looking here at enterprise risks. The risk type has been classified as information technology. Let me show you what other ones might be configured in the system. You can see we might have economic, environmental, health, etc. The date that the risk was created, as well as a review date. What we also need to do is to assign somebody to be accountable. In this example, we have assigned Tim, who is the IT manager, as being the accountable person for this particular risk register. When this risk register is approved in the system, Tim will be notified by email automatically. Your risks can also form part of a hierarchy. In this case, we can specify whether or not there's a parent. The other thing to note on this particular screen is that we have an audit trail of all the approvals. There's nothing yet shown because this risk register is not yet in approved status. But as it goes through the different steps, we will get an audit trail of all these transactions appearing here. Let's take a look at the lines. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have a list of risks in the system. Typically, this list would be quite long, especially for an IT security risk. As you click on each of these risks on the left-hand side, the panels on the right-hand side change with the detailed information. So for example, the denial of service attack has a more detailed description here as to what exactly that risk comprises. There may be different dates and different statuses on each of these lines, and this is also provided for. The outcomes of the risk will include those things which are affected and the consequences. This allows you a more structured way of selecting who or what is affected from pre-configured lists in the system. In this case, we have identified that reputation is probably the most important factor that was affected, and we noted here that our online systems are core to the brand. We cannot afford downtime due to denial of service. Under the consequences, we can see that there could be financial losses associated with this particular risk. The next panels show the initial risk and the residual risk. I just want to open up both together. You can see that the black block on the initial risk is quite high. It is a likelihood of 5 and an impact of 3, and the residual risk is much lower. So what is the difference? The difference comes from the calculations in the middle here. The calculations are based on looking at the inherent likelihood and consequence, having a look at the controls that are in place and their effectiveness to calculate a residual likelihood and consequence. We also include here a provision to record a potential financial loss so that we can aggregate the total exposure financially across the risk categories. There are other panels here that relate to the response that you might take. In this case, as we do the risk assessment, we might think of certain actions that we want to assign to various people, and we just create an activity from here, and it will be included in that person's backlog of activities or tasks. There is also a link between enterprise risk management and performance. The performance side is contained under corporate performance management and is also part of the Axnosis solution. Essentially, what we've done is shown how enterprise risks are captured and collated in a risk register. The other half of the equation is the compliance side.